So today we have Aziza Sadikova. She will be talking to us about her experiences in public appearances before all kinds of people all around the world. You have to unmute yourself, honey. Ты себя отключила.
Unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Sure.
Oh, I'm just trying to.
You keep switching off your microphone, honey.
Okay. I don't know why, but if it switches off, you tell me so then I can keep unmuting. If you stop hearing me, let me know.
Okay.
Okay.
So good morning, everyone. It's lovely to connect now with Tashkent. Today we have a great day in Berlin and it's raining. So, but I'm very happy that I was invited to give this talk about my experiences. If you know already, I'm a composer. And I have been working in the field of classical music, also in the field of film music, theater music. And yes, and I have started my work in music school in Uzbekistan. It's a school called Viktor Uspensky Music School. So basically, when I went there when I was age 5, so no one actually asked me if I want to be a musician. I was just brought to that school and I had to just follow all the instructions and play piano for hours, etc. And do all this other studies like mathematics, chemistry, and other subjects at the same time. So it was really, really tough. This is what I want to mention by talking about my experiences, because this beginning from my childhood was already a point of clarity that I have to be really kind of quick and making up decisions or planning things ahead. So it's not kind of like an average kid who goes to the school and has kind of a quite happy childhood and he plays somewhere in a playground, etc. And someone else takes decisions for him. This was a little bit different because you have a very structured way of learning there, and you are performers. So you are actually playing an instrument. Later on, I was already also composing from age of 9. But when you play an instrument, then you kind of have to realize that today I have to study this and this and learn this and that. And for next lesson, I already have to play it from memory or things like that. And then I have to prepare for my exam. And then I have to go on stage. So another thing is about going on stage. When you're little, that was something that we were trained to do, and we had to kind of just go up there, and you would have all the teachers seated and the jury and the examiners. Can't remember how many of them were there, but if it just was a music department for piano, then I think there would have been about 30 or 40 people, if I'm right. So you are a tiny little person, you're age 5 or 6, and you go onto that little kind of stage. If it was in a small chamber music hall, because we had 2 music halls in the school, one big music hall and a smaller one. And that's where you just sit down there and you just have to do it. So there's no question that you can suddenly stop or you get terrified or you get nervous. Of course you do get nervous, but by doing that, I must say, as a performer, by doing this, by going on stage, for example, for people like you, by talking in front of other people, this is how you train yourself. This what happens. Then the nerves, they get kind of trained, and that goes away, or it gets less. So, and what is an interesting, another point, when I kind of went into more professional way of presenting my music already on big concert stage, or performing as a pianist or harpsichordist, or as an organist, or sometimes even as a conductor, this is when I've heard that some even very, very, very famous top musicians, they get kind of a little bit nervous or afraid when they go on stage. And apparently this is not something that happens only to people who study or at the stage of learning or just at the beginning of their career. It also happens to people who are already on the top. But it's possible to train yourself and to get less of that nervousness by doing it more often. So, but to be able to do it more often, you have to be successful, of course, in your field. So you have to do it regularly. Especially, for example, as a musician, you have to kind of be there, present all the time. And this brings me to the next point, where we're talking about networking, making contacts around, going through this and getting up there. And this is where you need to have courage. This is what I was kind of trained to do at school, at the Uspensky Music School. But later on, I got the scholarship to go and study in the UK. And when I got the scholarship from in Uzbekistan, that was another point where you have to really have a courage, because I don't know what the situation is like now in Tashkent, whether you have these big scholarships where you have to go through big, huge competitions with 2,000 other students. But in that time, in 90s, we had this big process, and we had to go through stage by stage by stage. There were different levels. And this is when I kind of got myself together, and I realized if I want to continue my studies in Britain, I have to get through this process no matter what. And
Aziza, can I ask you a question here?
Yeah.
You said that you have had many experiences while you were in Uspensky school. In the Soviet Union, did they have any preparation, like to be on stage, or you were just trained as a musician? Would they ever prepare you psychologically that you have to be in front of people?
To be honest, no. So Uspensky school had a very strange way of kind of treating us. You're there and you just have to do it. You treat it as an adult. You're 5 years old, but you treat it, you're spoken to, and you treat it as an adult. They don't see you as a child. They train you. You go through whole of the process of practicing, and then here we are. This is a exam. You get there and you see all these teachers there in that big music room, and you just have to go through, get on stage, sit down, and play the piece for Bach, Schumann, whatever.
So were there kids who dropped out because they couldn't perform before the public?
No, actually, it was such a prestigious school to be at. It was kind of, I don't know if you know, Uspensky School, I'm not sure if it's now still is, but
No,
it's
it is still, yeah.
No, I know, but I'm not sure if it's a boarding school. It's a boarding school. It's equivalent of a boarding school in Britain. So this is, you have half of the people who live there and part of the people who come from home and then they go back home.
So you go there till the evening, right?
No, I go there for the school day because I lived not far, but there were kids from all over the country because it was such a prestigious school. So many people tried to get there, kids. And there was huge competition to get to Uspensky school. And half of them actually lived there. There's a part of the building which is a boarding school building with the practice rooms. So next time if anyone goes by Uspensky, so you can see why is it so big, because it has 2 buildings. And what can I say? I don't know anyone who left the school, anyone. At that time when I was until 1993, 1994, but in around 90s, towards end of 90s, many people started leaving the school because during perestroika, it was no longer prestigious to be a musician. So not prestigious to be in a classical music field. Everyone went crazy and went into pop music. Hence, that's why there's a reason why in Uzbek pop music now we don't have so many professionals. We have just amateurs coming from all over, people without any music education. It doesn't mean that they are bad musicians. I mean, some of them great singers, but actually we are well known for having a great vocal school. Uzbekistan, if you see how many people win vocal competitions around the world, most of them are Uzbeks. If you see how many greatest opera singers today in Mariinsky Theater, in Dresden Semper Opera, in La Scala, they are actually Uzbeks. In Deutsche Opera, we have Hulkar Sabirova. She's also from Tashkent, and she's a prima donna of Deutsche Oper here in Berlin. And that's one of the biggest opera houses in Europe, and the really important one. So in terms of vocal music, we're doing really well, and I'm very proud of Uzbek artists. But during perestroika, yes, interesting question, people started dropping off because they started going into the business or into pop music, etc. So talking about courage, when I went through those stages of getting the scholarship, I must tell you one interesting story when I had to do the history exam. And that was, again, remember, this is a perestroika, so we're no longer in Soviet Union, we are in independent Uzbekistan. And this is a point was when the history was completely changed, and there were stories coming up, historical facts about great figures from Central Asia, people who were active in Samarkand in 15th century. And we didn't know any of those names. Maybe we knew only about Ulugh-Bek and Ibn Sina in Soviet Union, but we didn't know any of the other great big names which were actually well known in Uzbek history, a Central Asian history. And but in the exam, the requirements were that you had to know those figures and you had to explain why they were important. And there were people, the examiners, one of them was Abdullah Aripov, very famous poet, Uzbek poet, if you know him. He was in one of my examiners. And talking about courage, everyone, just listen that I got myself a pile of books, and I just closed the doors. I sat there, had books all over on the floor, and I thought, I have to get through this. I must learn this. And I have not enough time. This is all new, but I must do it, because if I don't, then there would be no point of all the previous exams that I've passed, and there's no future for me in studying in Britain. So, and you know, I've managed to learn all this like really long names, and these Muslim names, they were really complicated, but I've managed to get a grip of what they did. And there was some very interesting questions asked in the exam, and I've managed to answer them, and so I went through it. Yeah. Now, so that was another moment of courage. And then, of course, there was my time in Great Britain, where you come and you end up in a completely different world, surrounded by totally different people who have, I've heard one interview recently, the people there in Europe, they're so different because they brought up on different songs, different cartoons, different movies. So they are completely different from us, people who were born in Soviet Union and brought up in one system. And that, to adapt to that you also require courage to adapt yourself to another culture, another mentality, because they think quite differently to us. You might presume that Europeans, they're like us. No, they're not like us. There's so many points where they're completely different. And so to be able to be very quick to react to things and to be able to hold the conversations and agree on certain topics, disagree on certain topics, but to be in that different culture is a big thing. So you are a risk taker. When you go abroad, remember you're going to be a risk taker, and you have to get through it. And the first moments might be difficult. For me, first moments were not that difficult because I ended up in the music institution, in the conservatoire, and I was surrounded by other musicians, and that was great. I was in my own field, and we just spoke with the language of music, so that was all good. Are there any questions?
Guys, please be more active in asking. Aziz, actually, we have discussed like a discrimination and stereotyping and being biased in the classroom. How important is not to be biased in the modern world, especially for somebody who wants to go abroad?
What do you mean by bias?
Can
you give me an example? What do you mean by bias?
Like having stereotypes. Having stereotypes.
Yeah, but I mean, I must honestly say that I also have stereotypes, and I also have stereotypes, and sometimes I'm actually quite right when I have those stereotypes. But the best thing, of course, is not to try to avoid it, try to not to show it, even if you have it in your mind, and not to show it to others, and basically keep it to yourself and just observe, and then you will see. But make sure that you yourself, when you get to Europe, you present yourself as very open-minded person, very open-minded, because once you are and that's the reason why I also had conflicts in my life, and I still have conflicts, because sometimes I have very strong opinion and I say, no, this is how I think this is. And of course you get into the conflict zone, and then it's not so easy to come out from that, because they also have stereotypes. Then they start thinking, you are of course like this because you come from that culture, from the Soviet system, etc. So it's not just us who have stereotypes, but they also have these stereotypes. But try not to show them, because again, these people are different, and we are also different. So that's why if you want to be successful here, you need to try to integrate, and certain things you can accept, certain things you don't have to accept, but it's better not to show it in a kind of negative way, but just keep it, just accept it. Yes, okay, this is how it is. And for example, a bureaucratic way of doing things in Germany, you can think, okay, I just have to get through this and prepare this and that paper and just get there. And the same in the music industry. So it's not so easy that you just go there and you get performed, your music gets performed. In Berlin, we have 2,000 composers living in Berlin, and everyone wants to get performed. So, but not everyone is successful and lucky to get there. But in order to be lucky in Europe, this is another point I would suggest to the students, you have to really work hard. So that means, for example, me as a composer, I have to keep working on my projects no matter what. I know that there's a lockdown now, second lockdown, but it doesn't matter. I work from morning till evening. I have my hours every day. I try to do it every day. And that's how I've been all my life. And if I don't achieve anything during the day, then I feel like my day is wasted. But that's me, that's my upbringing. I come from famous music family in Tashkent, and I come from the Uspensky school, which trained us to work every day. And I just can't be lazy. And maybe that's the reason why I'm lucky, and I feel like sometimes God also helps me, that if he sees that you're working, then you get rewarded. As soon as you get lazy, then you can be forgotten here very, very quick. As I said, there's a huge competition. There are over 2,000 composers in one city, just in Berlin. Yeah, and think of Europe, how many are there? So that's another point of being hardworking, have a courage to go up there, make contacts with people, keep broadening your network. And of course, not only in music field, for example, I also have loads of friends who are artists, who are filmmakers, not only from Germany, but also from Moscow, from Austria, for example, and from Italy. And I have very broad kind of circle of friends. So I don't also stick and focus only on music world. But for people like you, if most of you will go into business, I would suggest that you don't close your circle and be only about the business people, because then you will be talking only about finances. This is what I've experienced when I lived in London. People mostly there live and work in finance industry, in banks, and what these people talk about day and night is about money, and they are really narrow-minded. They have no idea that there's also a world of culture, there's world of cinema, there's interesting cinema like art cinemas, not only blockbusters that you see on the big screen. And they're like by art movies, I mean movies like by Tarkovsky, for example, and or Parajanov. So make sure you note down these names so you can watch these great genius films. So be please broad-minded when you get through your education and you go into professional life, and open-minded, accept that there are people who are different. Now Europe is not just concentrate on one culture as it was in 90s when I came, but now it's very multicultural. You have all kind of nationalities living in Europe, so you have to kind of get along with all these different cultures, not just one European culture. You have people here from all over the world. In Berlin, it's one of the most cosmopolitan cities, like London, and you have everyone here. Yes, so, and courage is important. So sometimes courage can be taken maybe for being kind of pushy and trying to go and meet some other people, but it's not pushy. You have to be also be careful how you do it. So if you meet people and you want to meet someone very important and in your field and get through and meet that contact and get maybe some help, you must not be very pushy. So just do it quite carefully and respectfully. That's another point. And then you will broaden your network, and then if you be hardworking, your success comes to you.
Guys, please be active with the questions, and I want you to turn on your cameras. It's not that many of us here, but still I want to see you people. And about being pushy, Aziza, I have heard in the corporate world there is a new term, shameless self-promotion. Is it the same thing in the arts now?
This is exactly where I'm now coming up with my talk, that this is something that I was not taught to do in at school or in Tashkent Conservatory, because I went also to study in Tashkent. No way. You have to just compose your music or play your instrument and just sit there, be quiet. Someone will come up to you, will contact you, and you get your performances on stage, etc. And remember that when I was studying, that was still Soviet Union, and in Soviet Union everyone had jobs. So as a composer, you knew you would go into the, for example, if you want to go into film industry, or if you want to be an orchestral composer, opera composer, you would have it, because they would be waiting for you. Your job would be secure. So there wasn't a question of you have to go around and shout out, look at me, I'm here and I write great music, take me. That was totally different attitude. So when Soviet Union collapsed, for people who were trained in a different way, of course, for people like me, that would have been a huge tragedy, a catastrophe completely, because then you have to totally change your thinking, your mind, and the way you were trained, and start realizing that now you have to talk about yourself. Not only that you have to write music, and if it's whether it's a good music or bad music, then the listeners decide, but not only you have to play an instrument for hours and hours a day and get your technique to the top, you also have to go up there and present yourself everywhere and talk about yourself and tell them, look at me, I'm here and I'm better than the other composer, take me. And for me, I must say, this took me a little while to get to that point, because psychologically it was really difficult for me, because I'm not used to do that, to do this self-promotion. I find it a little bit awkward and uncomfortable. I thought always, if you write good music, if you're a great musician, you don't have to talk about this. It's not polite to talk about this, about yourself. But the way things are here in Europe or in America, unfortunately, you are forced to do that if you want to succeed. You are forced. You have to do it. If you don't do it, no one will know you. And no matter how great you are, no one will call you or come up with a commission. For example, last week I watched this great blockbuster called Tenet. It just came out, and the music in the movie is absolutely unbelievable. It's a masterpiece. So if you get a chance to watch this movie, it's in the cinemas right now, then go and watch it. So I looked at the biography of this composer, and Ludwig Göransson. He's very young, and he studied at Royal College of Music in Sweden as a pianist and organist. That's what I actually also did, as a pianist and organist. But then he went from Sweden to Los Angeles, because he realized that if he's going to, maybe, I think most of them, this is how they do it. If you stay there in Europe, you won't be much heard by Hollywood. So you actually have to go there to Los Angeles. So he went to Los Angeles. He continued his studies. He decided to do some more studies in Los Angeles. And then he went into all those networking fields, and he met right people, and he started with short movies, and then he came up with, I think, 5 huge movies now, and he's got an Oscar prize for being one of the best composers now alive. I think he's only 36 years old. So
can you repeat his name? Sorry.
Yeah, his name. So the movie is Tenet.
Tenet.
Yeah, with T. It's by Christopher Nolan. It just came out, and the composer is Ludwig Göransson.
I got it. Thank you.
And what I want to say to everyone again, when I read these kind of stories, I realize, okay, I mean, not only that he was hardworking, obviously in Sweden, and in the classical music, but he realized pretty quick enough that he probably doesn't want to go in the classical sphere, but he wants to bring this music, this classical music, into the movie, so create huge soundtracks like Hans Zimmer. So he realized, obviously, he has to be there at the spot in Hollywood, in Los Angeles. He has to go around these people, and that's how you're going to get heard. This happened to my other great friend. I studied with him, Alex Rudd, who also writes great Hollywood soundtracks now, movies. I was on the airplane last year to China, and there was this movie that came up with the name Music Composed by Alexander Rudd. So Alexander Rudd was in London, my also contemporary, and he went to Los Angeles as well, because he realized also he has to be there in front of these people. Same happened to my other very good friend. I spoke about him in my previous lecture, Luke Davis. He was from Sydney. He was a writer, and he was one of the best-selling writers. He was very young, 40 years old, but he moved to Los Angeles, and now he's the best #1 screenwriter in Hollywood. Almost most of the movies, blockbusters that coming up, if you pay attention, they are by Luke Davis. So film like Life, film Lion. There's movies with all the superstars: Nicole Kidman, George Clooney, Robert Pattinson, and all these people. They also in my circle, and I knew these, they are my good friends. We also did collaborations, but they realized if they want to get to Hollywood, they have to be there. Same was with me. When I was in London, I realized that the music life is pretty conservative for classical concert music. And then I noticed that Germany is a great place. We have 50 orchestras here. You have great support from the government. You always get scholarships. You always get contracts, commissions as a composer, if you're successful, of course. And I made this decision. This is another thing. Courage is being a risk taker. I moved from London to Berlin. And I had nothing, so I just came here, and in 2 years or 3 years, I was building my network like crazy. I was running everywhere on all festivals, meeting different people, and then I started getting commissions, and people start liking my music, and up to now, I'm still working, and I'm doing big orchestral works, and right now I'm working on a violin concerto. So basically, it's also being in the right place.
But being in the right place, first of all, you have to have the skills, right?
You have to have the skills, of course. You have to already have some kind of luggage you have to know that, well, okay, now I'm going to make this contact, meet this person, but I actually have to show them what I have. So you have to send them a demo, soundtrack, or whatever, and for them to hear. So it's not only a nice picture that you have to have great image, you have to have charisma, you have to be able to speak well, you have to have a great knowledge. So if they ask you, oh, have you been to this gallery yesterday, or have you seen this new exhibition, or have you heard about this great soundtrack that just came up, or great performance, you have to be always actuel, so as Germans say, always on time. So please watch the news, listen to up-to-date music, and also follow the world of culture, because especially as a businessman, successful businessman in Europe, I know most of them actually even play piano here, and they also know about what goes on in culture. They go to opera houses. So place in Bayreuth, place where Richard Wagner lived and worked, this is where you have all the millionaires and huge successful businessmen go there every August to watch Wagner's operas. It's like a hotspot. You have to be there. You have to communicate with. Angela Merkel also goes there every August to that festival. So basically, try to do as much as you can. Unlike you, I'm not like you, so I have no understanding about business. I'm only in my field of music or arts, but with the business, I have no understanding whatsoever. So from your point of view, I would actually be probably also narrow-minded, but it's just the way
No,
I
we
am.
have some, not only business, we have some media majors, and I'm sure, pretty sure, while the course of studies, some of the students might even change their majors. Webster is quite broad in the specialities they suggest.
Well,
And
that's good.
as we were talking with other guest speaker, we had Nasim here last week. You know Nasim. We were talking about the specialization and the major, how it's changing. That you go into one field and you graduate with a major, but you never know who you're gonna be after you graduate. And you never know how you're gonna use your skills in life, you know?
Yeah, but this is
And
something I want to tell you that this is happening all over the world, all over. I have so many friends who came out from the conservatoire here in London or in Berlin, and they changed the field. They went into business or to work in some companies. The same happening to people probably in media, people who doing journalism, they then realizing, no, it's not happening. I'm not getting to the point I want, to the level I want to get to. There are obvious reasons. Probably it's not easy to get through, especially in the TV industry. It's the same like film, music. It's, first of all, I want to say that unlike in Uzbekistan, I think I've mentioned in my previous lecture, unlike in Uzbekistan, where women are actually getting really good jobs, and if they composer, they can write music anywhere they want, or film music or classical music, radio, TV. You know how many women work on the TV in Tashkent, and they always did, or heads of companies, and that's always been like this. It's not the same in Europe. That's the reason actually why everyone is talking feminism, but that's exactly the reason why there's a feminism movement, is because women are not getting the jobs they qualified to do, and they want to be there because it's very male predominant society. America is even worse. And if you can name me any female composers in Hollywood, then I'll be very, very surprised. I know only one that came up now with the series Chernobyl. She's also from Iceland, but I think it's only one woman. So changing your qualifications, also you have to be quick enough to realize whether you are in the country or in somewhere where you realize, okay, this is not gonna get me there because there are these reasons. And you have to be also quick and not be afraid to change qualifications. I know many of my
About
friends many of my friends now, actually, during the lockdown, those who are not getting commissions, I was very lucky because I keep getting commissions even during lockdown. Since March, I've been non-stop working. I have projects all the time. But there are friends who don't get any more, and they're thinking of changing qualifications or getting another job. And they're not afraid.
Aziza, about the male dominance in the business and in the society, like, how do you deal with it? I remember when we were going on the class trip to the Mexico, it was like when we were talking with business people there, like having interviews with them, round tables, like the Mexico, it was start of 2000s, it was just males. And if you had any female executive, it would be somebody's daughter or whatever, wife. And it was very, very male view of the business. What kind of, what do you focus on so people can look at you as the specialist? Forget it, that you are the woman.
I don't know. I mean, you just have to keep working and writing good music. And if it's meant to be, it's just luck. If it's meant to be, they hear your music. I mean, this is the case with me. People approach me. They're saying, we've heard your successful performance there. We want to commission your new work. Yeah, that's just luck, to be honest. Because, for example, to get to Hollywood, I know I'm not going to get to Hollywood because I'm not in LA, and I never made this decision to go to LA, and I never thought that film industry in Europe is also so male predominant. This was for me a big surprise. So I just have to accept it, and I'm still busy, and I still get paid, and I'm working on other things, on orchestral works. But hopefully, maybe I was in Uzbekistan, and there was a big interest in collaborating with me for the movies with young film directors. So hopefully I can do some film music there as well. Like my teacher, Dmitry Yanov-Yanovsky. If you know, Dmitry Yanov-Yanovsky is #1 film composer in Uzbekistan. Most of the great soundtracks, it's his music.
And you keep saying that you are not from the business major and that you are art, but from what I know, for all the years, it was you yourself who is managing your PR. You don't have an agent, right? So you are a business person, like you are your own agent. And to speak some of the history of Aziza, while she was here, I was escorting her to some business interviews, and I have seen we have very many talented people here who do not look that they have to promote themselves, and they keep becoming unseen in the world, like cinema. Unfortunately, most of our people still don't understand how PR and how promotion works.
PR, you will know how it works only when you're in this place, when you're in Europe or in America, and when you put into these circumstances and you feel like, oh my God, if I don't act, if I don't do this, if I don't create a great website, if I don't put really good pictures of me, if I don't put great demos, soundtracks, clips, and they hear my music immediately, because people who make decisions, they just click on your website, they have maybe 5 minutes, they're not gonna waste their time looking through every detail, and they just have to look really fast, and it has to be very clear. So just short biography, top prizes, photos page, and media music soundtracks. You can look on my website and we'll see how I've done it. Yeah, so it has to be really fast, and you have to be active also on social media. This is something that I must honestly say I never wanted to do, never wanted to be present on social media. But again, I was forced by the circumstances, and that's why I have Facebook, I have Instagram, I have Contact, the Russian network, and people can see me and see that I know that people from outside always think that I'm super active as a composer. And I actually think I'm very critical of myself. I think that I'm lazy and I'm not doing enough. So, yeah. But to be able to talk to people, to do self-PR, to speak well, to be kind of in the business, this is something that you learn just by doing it, experience. And I obviously then I can do it, but I thought that I'm still need to maybe get better in presenting myself. But obviously people get, when I talk to new contacts and I present myself, they do get actually good impressions, because then I always get a new contract for new work.
So it's all about personal communication as well.
Personal communication, personal relationships, the most important thing, the most in Europe,
Okay.
and in America. If you don't
Okay,
have these skills,
yeah.
you will not be, no one will know you.
Okay, here we have the freshman students who are studying in the first semester in university, and we are doing some student projects, and some of them are shy, some of them are thinking that they don't have enough information that they can present to the world. What would your tips would be? How they can utilize their student years to the maximum, that they come out as professionals from university?
Well, now in Tashkent, I remember already in 90s when I was there, we already had in 1995, 1996, we had libraries full of American, British books on language, on business. And I remember so many of my friends were learning all through these big, thick books, studying like Nassim and Ibrat, who is now working on BBC, for example, in London. And they were all going to these libraries. I used to go to this library in Chorsu, and Chorsu was very far from me. I lived in Darhan, and I was scared to go through that market alone. But I was going through it, and I was getting to this American library and learning, taking books, learning, studying. So this is what you have to do. You have to get your language skills to the top whilst you studying. And in Tashkent, you have now huge, great opportunities. You have so many, obviously, resources. Not only that you have internet now, but you have great resources there. I'm sure since 90s, this has also improved even more. Use your time just learning and studying about your field, where you want to succeed. So if you want to be into journalism, then watch great journalists, watch how they speak, what they talk about, etc.
Okay, guys, let's hear from you. Do we have all dead souls here, or anybody is with us still?
Well, if we finished with the questions, then we I can give some certain names later, and yeah, share them with everyone.
I have a
Aru,
question.
also, yeah, go ahead.
So the biggest question for myself, and actually for those person who works in art in foreign countries. So didn't you feel some scary feelings when you go there and work as a artist, as a musician? Because I'm a videographer, and sometimes I'm scared to go to foreign country because I know that there is I can met about 10,000 similar guys like me, but in Tashkent I can be one of the 100 guys.
Yeah, this is to do with your this is to do with your personal decision, because of course in Tashkent you will be valued much more if you are a big talent. And I have a friend who is a cinematographer, so and Aziz Jambakiev, he got Berlinale Silver Bear Prize. This is one of the biggest film prizes in Europe. And he was 27. He's from Kazakhstan. And Aziz got this prize, and he was working then in Germany and Moscow a lot, doing movies. He still does some movies, but he actually went to Kazakhstan. Now he's in Kazakhstan and also doing some great things. And I think he's much more valued in his own home country. He's always present there on the TV. There's so many interviews with him now. He is present on journals, magazines, on covers. So this have to be your own personal decision what you want to do. But in my case, and in case of so many of my contemporaries who left at that time, that was a moment of survival. We had to survive, and we had to save our art, save it. Because if I stayed in Uzbekistan in 90s, I would have become some banker or went into economics, because no one needed classical music. Nobody. Nobody needed people in movies. You know, Janik Faiziyev, our great film regisseur, he was my neighbor as well. He went to Moscow. Half of Uzbek film is now in Moscow and doing great movies. So and we all immigrated in 90s, all these people my age. And that was because we wanted to continue in our industry. We had to save our talent, because otherwise we would have all became businessmen. We would have all became just going into making money.
In case just you would work in normal job. It's people would like to say, find a normal job.
What was the question?
Sorry, can you repeat?
What was the question?
You already answered to my question.
Yes. If otherwise, I would have worked in a not artistic job. Yeah, I think I would have done it really well, because I have friends who work in London banks, and they say, like Kamola Mahmudova, she got a prize from the award from our president of Uzbekistan. And she's a great friend of mine, Kamola Mahmudova. She works for European Bank of Reconstruction. And Kamola told me, actually, if you didn't go to music industry, you would have been a great finance person. I don't know why, but she said that I have this presence that I could have been really also successful in business. I don't know. But being a patriot as well, and being important for your own country is also very important, to have your identity. So remember, if you want to do a lot for your country, then I suggest that you stay and you work there. Maybe you go to Europe and get some courses and learn and get your skills improved. But this is something that I was talking about when I went to Tashkent last year. I said, I'm very happy to come back and work for my country, and now help to develop the cultural life in Tashkent, which is at the moment seems to be a little bit quiet. I mean, I don't hear of any big star conductors, composers, musicians coming, orchestras coming to Tashkent. It's very quiet. So it needs to develop.
Yeah, we have had very interesting encounters while Aziza was here, even like big officials from our side, when they heard that she's a musician, she was asked the questions at which weddings she performs.
Wedding in Uzbekistan.
This is a state of art in Uzbekistan, unfortunately now. Yeah. But I hope this is gonna change, you know, the intellectual
But I
level.
think that if the students look on my website, I think they will understand what I actually do and what kind of music I write and etc. etc. Or if they go to Home Theater, you can watch the theater play where my music is. I composed when I was 18 years old, and it's the play is after Abdullah Qaderi. It's called White, White, Black Stork. So Ilhom Theater.
По-русски eyes будет, да? She's quite known in the Uzbek culture as well, but not by many. So guys, do you have any like practical questions for your own work? Go ahead, please. Let's make most of the time.
Yes, I have question. Is it my voice hearable enough?
Yes, yes. Go ahead.
Greetings to you. First off, I want to thank you very much for sharing your experience, knowledge, and importantly, devoting your time. I always fascinated. I was always fascinated with the work of composers, how they manage to stay creative all the time. And my question is to you is, what steps do you follow, or what do you do when nothing comes to your mind? So that's it. When you want to compose something.
Yeah, this is a great question, actually. Thank you. Very, very clever, interesting question as well. Basically, I don't know what happens to me, guys, but I have so many different projects, different topics. Sometimes, like it can be work about Franz Kafka, the absurdist writer. It can be work about Utkan Kunlar by Abdullah Qaderi, which I'm writing now, a big soundtrack for audiobook. It can be a piece for orchestra about Stradivari, for example, and I always have some kind of idea that I have to sit down quietly and I think, okay, if I have to write this orchestral piece with a violin, what is a violin for me, with the sound of violin, what does it connect with, you know? So violin connects for me with the movie, a Soviet movie, Visit к Minotavru, with it's a detective movie, a great movie. Maybe some of you watched it before, but it's about story it's a real story of a violin by Stradivari. You know, the Stradivari violins, they cost 20 million euro and even more, and there are only 16 of them in the world. So one of those Stradivaris was stolen in Moscow, and in the movie they portray story of Stradivari himself, as he lived and created these violins, and the story happening in Moscow was the detectives looking for the thieves. It's a great movie, but the music was there fantastic, and somehow I thought violin, the movie Visit k Minotavru, the sound of Stradivari, the story of Stradivari, and then I created this piece, and it's called Stradivari, you know, but it took me about 20 minutes to just concentrate and think which, as Germans say, Richtung, which direction should I take this music, what this music should be about. But sometimes you get a commission and they say this music should be about Franz Kafka, you know, his love story. or about Utkan Kula, the marriage, you know, the tragedy of Otabek and Kumush. And then you kind of, I mean, to be honest, I immediately get ideas. I don't know why, but I have immediately things like, oh, I know what kind of music I'm going to create. And I'm in touch with Nazim Tulekhajayev. Maybe you know, this is one of our great actors, the best super handsome Uzbek actor in the Uzbek cinema, Nazim Tulekhajayev, who played always these evil characters and bandits. And I was in touch with Nazim Tulekhajayev, and I noticed that on his Telegram channel, there's a great photo of him and another actress from the movie, a very famous movie he played, Uzbek film. And I saw this picture just of him and her. In the moment, they were just holding each other. And somehow I just went to the piano and I created this soundtrack. But I mean, this is not a commission. This is just something that was visually. I just saw it. I went and I created it at night, and I just played it through. I pressed the red button, played it through, recorded it. I sent it to him, and he just went crazy. So basically, it's things like that, you know. I don't know, but I can't remember that if it was really, really difficult for me to compose anything recently that I would be stuck. Maybe I will get stuck later in life. I don't know.
Thank you. I get it.
Gulsara, we don't hear you.
Yeah, I'm listening to you. Nazim Tulekhajayev, I was looking up his pictures now to show to the students, like if somebody, this is a face, I'm quite sure if somebody watched old movies, they have seen it, like you can see it.
Not very old. He still plays in a big blockbuster.
I mean, he has like, I mean, he's like from the old school.
Yeah, he was mega famous in Soviet, when he was young. He started as a young actor in Soviet time. He was top, Moscow, in Moscow he plays everywhere.
Yeah, and about our movie artists and the producers, you were talking about Janik Faiziyev, and we have others who went to the Russia and they are quite successful there. And I have heard many of our producers producing the like blockbuster ad commercials in Russia as well, you know.
Timur
Like they want.
Timur Bekmambetov also actually started in Ilhom Theater. If you guys went to Ilhom Theater, it was like a mecca, because so many famous mega stars started in Ilhom, like Janik Faiziyev, Bahrom Machanov, Nazim Tulekhajayev, then the girls, who are these famous, Nargis Abdullaeva, and also another two famous, Rayhon Ulasenova. We all started there, and people before me, it was Mecca basically. Timur Bekmambetov, and then the Frendeti, Tagat, one very famous theater guy in Moscow, Talgat Basayev, I think he also started.
Yes.
And they all now megastars, actually, megastars.
Yeah. The interesting thing, I think Janik Faiziyev, by education, he finished the Tashkent Medical Institute, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, for the beginning, I think he was not even the movie producer.
Because Janik Faiziyev is older than me, so he was my neighbor, and he works with my teacher mainly, Dmitry Nofinovsky. He's his main composer. So
people have changed the culture, the countries. Some of them have changed their occupations. So adaptability is very important now.
But they kept their friend circle, which is great. They keep working together. And this is another thing, everyone. Create your circle. Create your friend circle, people who you trust and people who will not leave you in the difficult times as well, and they will help you also through your life. I have such great friends, actually.
What is interesting about Aziza, you guys now like freshmen, and unfortunately the whole study ever since the September we have started, it has been online. And I didn't have a chance to meet my students, and some of them still didn't meet each other. But I want to say about Aziza, in Berlin, she has the same Uspensky circle around her, right?
No, well, not only, I have also, I mean, now I have a visitor, my very good close friend who is German, and he is in the music also industry. I have all kinds of people. I have friends from London, because Berlin is so cosmopolitan, from Rome, but I also have the Uspensky music circle, because unfortunately, again, during Perestroika, the Uspensky school, most of us immigrated, and most of them immigrated to Germany, to Berlin. So we have so many here. And they're all very, very busy. They're all playing everywhere in orchestras, they solos. Some of them now actually superstars, and also, you know, Begzot Abduraimov, he is now considered to be the top pianist in the world, and he's Uzbek. He's also from my school. Hulkar Sabirova is a prima donna at Deutsche Oper, singing in German, Italian, all languages. Najmiddin Mavlyanov, I just came across, he works apparently with my conductor who I work with, Omer Velbe, in Germany, and he sings in big opera houses. So many musicians are here now.
If you are to come back to Tashkent, what kind of activities you want to undertake here? What kind of career?
Well, if I would be invited back to Tashkent, then I would love to do, again, film music, because I know that we have shortage of composers in Uzbek film now. And also maybe do some coaching, and yeah.
How important you think the understanding of the arts and of the music for the creativity in the person? Because if you have heard the psychologist Brené Brown, she says that 60% of problems, the psychological problems people have in the adult life, is because their creativity has not been developed properly in the childhood.
Yeah, actually, I have a few also friends who go through depression, etc., and they are the people who failed in the artworks, like a film regisseur. I know one film regisseur, another one is a composer, and because of that, they are not satisfied with life, not satisfied. So but that happened also for them during the later years of their life, but that's because they became lazy. This is something I want to say. That's nothing to do with circumstances. They became lazy. They chose comfort. They chose different life, and but now they're actually depressed. So, but if you're young and you still have some talents, then just do it along with your other things.
Well, you always refer that you are not business person, but as actually management systems like science of management and science of economics, it deals a lot of with psychology as well. And there is like a very famous, I'm sure you have heard about the Maslow hierarchy of needs, when like you have basic needs and like sense of belonging and everything built up. And I was surprised to come across the other citations of the Maslow, when he says that the person will never be happy unless he realizes his full potential. Like, you know, when we have this earning to do something and we don't do it, we don't achieve it. Like, you know how materialistic our society, Uzbek society is. And I see among people around, like, who are at their 40s and 50s, who are not satisfied with their life, because maybe at some part, they gave up something on their dreams, they gave up something on the potential because of the career. How to balance the career and your own personal goals, you know?
As I said, just keep doing it and go to some clubs, art clubs, or I know they are, that we have them in Tashkent, or communicate, expand your circle. So again, not be only among business people, expand your circle. Like if you're in a cinema, with the cinema people, if you're in design, then with designers. And that helps actually. What is helping psychologically a lot is a communication with these people from your field of interests. Hugely helps. I mean, I'm surrounded only by artists, musicians, journalists, and performers, film producers. Some of them are mega stars, some of them somewhere in the middle. One of them actually is even a student. But it's great because we always have these parties, evenings, dinners, and we all communicate and we enjoy it. And then everyone tells me, we get so inspired when we talk to you, or when we in your surrounding, or when we come here. So this is something, also another point. And we have loads and loads of talented people in Tashkent. I was so impressed. I keep being impressed how hugely talented Uzbeks are. Actually, that's the reason why when they go abroad, most of them become very successful.
Okay, guys, I'm getting very inspired by the Aziza. I'm quite sure you guys as well. Come on, girls, ask some questions to Aqila, Margarita. I cannot believe you guys don't have any questions. It's just our class, and it's not that many.
I had talk with this school of girls, and the students were actually then interested to ask questions later on after the lecture, so they just sent some questions and I was happy to answer. So we can also do that. If you come up with questions afterwards, you're welcome to send them, and I will respond.
Yeah,
through Gulsara. Yeah.
Yeah, but I will appreciate if you guys ask now. Also, you want to say something?
Yes, I wanted to ask and just understand that you're a hard worker, but have you ever been so emotional tired that you don't see the sense in what you do? And if so, how do you deal with this?
Everyone who is in arts in the world of culture has this. Everyone, even mega successful people, they have those moments where they think, oh, it doesn't make any point, you know, I'm maybe not making millions and stuff. And but strange, this is some mystic thing happens with me every time I start to think this way. I actually open my email, or I get a phone call, and there's someone telling me that we want to give you a new commission, you know, to compose a new piece or a new big opera, to go to China and work there. And then you think, like, this is weird because it keeps happening every time I want to kind of relax and get a little bit depressed. There's someone maybe from above, he's not letting me have this free time. And every time I want to just enjoy some kind of a depression, I just don't get this moment in my life. And so it's always goes non-stop with me. And then I have to just get back to my table and open the music manuscript paper and just work, because I know that I have this commission. I can't say no. This is another advice to everyone. I've heard another great interview recently by some Hollywood composer. When you start in your career, if they approach you and it's something really, really, really hard, and you think like, oh my God, there's no way I can do it. You think, you know, you'll be like terrified. You think, I'm not gonna manage. This is a big thing. I will destroy it. Destroy the project, and then I'll be accused and guilty. this is what you can think in your mind, but the answer you have to give to people who give you commission, you must always say, yes, I can do it, no matter what. And then you figure out how you do it. So this is not me saying this, I'm just, I thought about this as well, and I did it in my life, always. I always said yes. But I've heard it in an interview last week by Hollywood composer, and he was saying, always say yes. But the moments, of course, I have those moments when I get through thinking, what's the point? Maybe I should be doing something else, like just be a housewife or live in London somewhere, enjoy my wealthy life and or in Uzbekistan. But then it just, someone is not letting me do it. It keeps going.
I understand.
I guess you have to fulfill your destiny.
Probably. I'm just telling you, this is so mystic. I have no explanation to that. No explanation, but it's just always like this.
Yes. Well, your speech reminds me of one philosopher's citation that the muse is a guest who comes to those who work.
That could be true as well. Could be true. Yeah.
Like you don't expect it, oops, coming, you know, you keep working and it comes in the early time of the morning or deep in the night when you're working.
Well, there's this Russian saying, which I always remember, is when you say, без труда не вытащишь рыбку из пруда. And this is sometimes how my day starts. By saying that out loud. But anyway, thank you for listening and for asking great questions. I'm very impressed. The students came up with some very interesting things.
Any more questions, guys?
Yes. Can I?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Akila.
You said that you have a channel, and I want to see this channel about your projects, about your work. Can you send a link on the chat box?
Yeah, I will send the link through through Gulsara, and you will have it.
Thank you. And what project are you working now?
I'm working right now parallel on 2 projects, and third one is also coming up on the way. And that's this violin concerto, which I have to complete, and the soundtrack, as I said, to the audiobook, which will come out in America and Europe, Utkan Kunlar, in English. In English, yeah.
Do you work in how many languages are you working in?
Yeah, I work. Yeah, I do it. I work only in 3 languages. That's Russian, English, and German. Other languages I do not understand.
Thank you.
Aziza, I wanted to ask a question. You worked with a Chinese orchestra, right?
Yeah.
You have had an experience working in England, and you have had wide experience working in Europe. Does the mentality change?
Hugely.
What is
huge? Even between England and Germany, it's totally different.
Really? What is peculiar about British? What is peculiar about Chinese and Europeans?
Especially with during the working process, when you have rehearsals and they play and you talk about this and stuff. British musicians are great musicians, but they like to ask too many questions, and they like to ask also irrelevant questions. Like, for example, something is written in the music, but they still will ask you too many irrelevant things, which takes your time from the rehearsal. And if you know, in Europe, the rehearsals are very tightly, always very tight. There's never enough time because they have to pay musicians, the orchestras, it's huge amount of money, and you can't go over even extra 5 minutes. This is the attitude they have in Britain. In Germany, Germany is a country of culture. Culture, music is #1 here. That's why there's so many musicians living in Germany. And in Germany, they will give you enough time for your rehearsal. They'll make sure you're happy as a composer that this is how it sounds, yeah. The musicians do not waste time for long coffee breaks or for interrupting and asking irrelevant questions. They will ask something very clearly, and then you explain and you understand. In China, that was completely different. China was a little bit like in Tashkent, actually, because just different attitude. I mean, they were not very much aware of contemporary music, so they would be, some of them were rejecting, not accepting the sounds, because they would be thinking, oh, it doesn't sound like Mozart or Tchaikovsky. And some were neugierig, like we say in German, interested and curious. Oh, wow, this sounds strange, or this sounds new to me. But some were really rejecting, so would be sometimes with aggression or making jokes and stuff. And that attitude I didn't really like, no. But they play well. This is the thing. The Chinese musicians, as you know, they are, especially nowadays, they also the ones of the best in the world. They always in some orchestras in Europe or on stage as a soloists. Well, pianists. There are so many Chinese pianists now.
So Germans have the best work ethics, right?
For music, yeah, because it's a music land. This is where music comes from. I mean, Hans Zimmer, the #1 composer in the world, Hollywood composer, he's German.
Well, thank you. You guys have more questions or no?
Well, as I said, if there are any other more detailed questions, they can come up later, and I will be happy to respond as well.
Aziza, is there Halloween in Berlin?
There is Halloween, which is tonight, so I got loads of sweets, and there will be many kids coming in costumes, so it will be great fun. And the weather is perfect today. It's such a great day.
They celebrate it there as well, right?
Yeah, they love it. Yeah.
Even with like coronavirus, you still expecting?
It doesn't matter for Berlin.
How is the quarantine measures in Germany now? Are they strictening or like?
Well, from Monday they will be more strict again, but the worst thing is that the concerts are again closed, concert halls are again shut, and the music projects, I mean, I'm working on in 2020, I think almost nothing actually went on stage, or nothing actually took place. Nothing, everything was cancelled.
You had a lot of things planned, and I think
2020 had to be very, very big for me, because I had projects in the very big concert halls in Germany, and they were very prestigious events. And I remember one in Elbphilharmonie, that's the biggest concert hall in Germany, in Hamburg. It's on the water. My opera was sold out, but then it was cancelled. So yeah, but it doesn't matter, because this is all moving to next year, so it's not that it's not going to be performed.
Well, I hope there are no surprises for us in November or December, like there are many jokes that there aliens are coming and other stuff. I think we're finished for this year with all these big events, you know. Yeah, thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, everyone. I really enjoyed talking, and I enjoyed also receiving interesting questions. And just keep working hard, be courageous, risk takers, and learn to do self-PR. Learn it. It's important. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, dear.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I wish everyone a success. Everyone a success in their studies. And try to think earlier enough now who you want to be in life. Because the earlier you can come up with this decision, it's better going to be for you then. Because I know many people who still, I mean, they would be 30 years old, but they still don't know who they want to be. And I know such friends. And that's not funny. So yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.